The sky over Jerusalem is choked with black smoke. The golden doors of the temple have been smashed to pieces. A ruthless, unstoppable army has just crushed the city without even needing to start a fire. And now, thousands of terrified captives are being dragged away in heavy iron chains. This is Daniel, a 15-year-old boy ripped from his home, his family, and everything he has ever loved. He is being forced to march hundreds of miles across the scorching desert. His destination? The belly of the beast, the dazzling, terrifying, and wicked empire of Babylon. A massive city built with one specific purpose: to make captives forget who they are. More importantly, to make them forget their God.
They can chain our hands, and they can steal our homes, but they cannot steal the King of Heaven from our hearts.
But this isn't just a grim story about a boy lost in a foreign land. You will see how an exiled teenager rose to become the most powerful advisor on the planet. You will see untouchable kings driven totally mad, and men walking completely unharmed through blazing furnaces. Stay with us till the end to see the absolute climax, a terrifying night in a sealed pit of starving lions. If these stories connect with you, please like, share, and subscribe to our channel. It really helps us bring more of these biblical epics to life. Now, let's begin. King Nebuchadnezzar is not just a ruler. He is a terrifying force of nature. When his massive army surrounds Jerusalem, he does not just want to conquer the land. He wants to break its soul. He orders his elite soldiers to march directly into the holy house of God. But the king wants something far more valuable than gold. He wants the future. He calls for his chief official, Ashpenaz.
Bring me their finest youths, boys of royal blood, without a single blemish. We will strip away their past, force them to learn the language of my empire, and they will serve in my palace.
Among the thousands of weeping, broken captives, Ashpenaz selects 4 exceptional teenagers: Daniel, Hananiah, Mishael, and Azariah. They are shoved into the king's brutal 3-year brainwashing program. It is a brilliant psychological trap. The empire doesn't torture them in dark cells. It tries to buy their loyalty with overwhelming luxury. First, the empire steals their names. Daniel is renamed Belshazzar to honor a fake Babylonian god. Hananiah becomes Shadrach. Mishael becomes Meshach. And Azariah becomes Abednego. Next comes the ultimate test of loyalty: the food. Most captives gladly gorge themselves, eager to forget their trauma. But Daniel stares down at the roasted meat. The younger boy, Azariah, looks nervously at Daniel, his stomach rumbling loudly.
Daniel, look around. Everyone else is eating. The Babylonians own us now. What does a plate of meat matter?
It matters because this food was sacrificed to their golden statues.
If we eat from the king's table, we are telling the empire that their gods provide for us. They can change our names, Azariah, but they cannot change who we belong to.
Daniel makes a choice that could instantly cost him his head. But Daniel resolved not to defile himself with the royal food and wine, and he asked the chief official for permission not to defile himself this way.
Are you out of your mind, boy? If the king sees you looking starved and weak compared to the others, he will literally have my head on a spike. Eat the meat!
Please, just test your servants for 10 days. Give us nothing but vegetables to eat and water to drink.
Then, compare our faces to the boys who eat the king's food.
It is an incredible risk. A 10-day ticking clock. For 10 days, the 4 boys eat nothing but simple greens, while the rest of the captives feast on royal luxury. At the end of the 10 days, Ashpenaz is absolutely stunned. Daniel and his friends look stronger and sharper than everyone else. God honors their quiet, unbreakable faithfulness. Years pass. Daniel and his friends graduate at the very top of the king's academy. But the golden, invincible empire of Babylon is about to be shaken to its core by something as simple as a bad night's sleep. A nightmare shatters the king's mind so deeply that sleep flees from him entirely. Desperate, frantic for answers, he summons the smartest, wealthiest astrologers in the empire. They confidently march into the throne room, used to playing political games. They usually just listen to a dream and invent a flattering, fake meaning to keep the king happy. But today, Nebuchadnezzar sets a brutal, impossible trap.
I have had a dream that deeply troubles my spirit. I must know what it means.
O king, live forever. Simply tell your servants the dream, and we will gladly tell you the interpretation.
No! You will tell me the dream itself and the interpretation. If you cannot tell me exactly what I saw in my own head, I will have you cut into pieces and your houses turned into piles of rubble.
But, my king, there is not a man on earth who can do what the king asks.
The king explodes with pure rage. He immediately orders the violent execution of every single wise man in Babylon. When Arioch, the ruthless commander of the king's guard, kicks open the door to Daniel's quarters with his sword drawn, the death sentence is already signed.
Why is the king's decree so harsh and urgent? Take me to the king. I will interpret the dream.
Daniel does not have the answer yet. He is risking his own life and the lives of his 3 best friends on a promise. He rushes home and gathers Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. They do not consult star charts. They do not read magic scrolls. They drop to their knees and plead for mercy from the God of heaven. The sun dips below the horizon. The deadline is set. If the sky turns bright and Daniel has no answer, they will all be executed. The 4 teenagers wait in the dark, praying through the silence. And in the dead of night, the God of the universe breaks through. The mystery is revealed to Daniel in a breathtaking vision. Now, a teenage exile has to walk into the throne room and tell a terrifying dictator exactly what is hiding inside his own head. The next morning, the royal throne room is dead silent. The tension in the air is suffocating.
Are you able to tell me what I saw in my dream and what it means?
No wise man, enchanter, magician, or diviner can explain to the king the mystery he has asked about. But there is a God in heaven who reveals mysteries.
Daniel does not take the credit. He points the most arrogant, dangerous king on earth directly to the God of Israel. Then, Daniel begins to describe the exact terrifying nightmare locked inside the king's mind.
You looked, O king, and there before you stood a large statue, an enormous, dazzling image, terrifying in appearance. The head of the statue was made of pure gold. Its chest and arms were silver. Its belly and thighs were bronze. Its legs were solid iron, and its feet were a mixture of iron and baked clay.
The king's jaw drops. It is exactly what he saw. Daniel explains the history of the world before it even happens. The golden head is Nebuchadnezzar himself. The silver, bronze, and iron represent lesser, weaker empires that will conquer the earth after Babylon falls. But the most important part of the dream is the ending.
While you were watching, a rock was cut out, but not by human hands. It struck the statue on its feet of iron and clay and completely smashed them. The wind swept the pieces away like dust. But the rock that struck the statue became a huge mountain and filled the whole earth. In the time of those kings, the God of heaven will set up a kingdom that will never be destroyed. It will crush all those kingdoms and bring them to an end, but it will itself endure forever.
The absolute ruler of the known world is completely stunned. The terrifying tyrant, who just yesterday ordered the death of hundreds of men, falls completely flat on his face, prostrate on the marble floor before a teenage exile. Nebuchadnezzar honors Daniel, loudly declaring that Daniel's God is the true God of gods. Daniel is instantly promoted to ruler over the entire province, and at his request, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego are made top administrators. Daniel survived the day, but the peace does not last, because pride is a disease. King Nebuchadnezzar liked the part of the dream where he was the golden head entirely too much. In fact, his massive ego is about to spark the deadliest, most fiery standoff in the history of the empire. Time passes. The terror of the dream fades from Nebuchadnezzar's memory, but the arrogant flattery remains. His ego swells into absolute madness. He doesn't just want to be the head of an empire. He wants to be worshipped as a literal god. Nebuchadnezzar summons every single prince, governor, judge, and official in the empire. It is a terrifying display of absolute dominance.
This is what you are commanded to do, O peoples, nations, and men of every language. As soon as you hear the sound of the horn, flute, harp, and all kinds of music, you must fall down and worship the image of gold. Whoever does not fall down and worship will immediately be thrown into a blazing furnace.
It is a test of total loyalty. The loud, chaotic music erupts across the plain. Instantly, like a collapsing wave, thousands of terrified officials drop face first into the dirt, pressing their foreheads to the ground in sheer panic. But three young men refuse to bow to a false god. The three Jewish exiles stand entirely alone. They know exactly what the punishment is. They can literally feel the heat of the massive brick execution furnace roaring in the distance. Abednego swallows hard, his hands sweating, but Shadrach grips his shoulder, steadying him. Jealous astrologers, who absolutely despise the fact that foreigners hold high office, immediately sprint to the king, eagerly whispering the treason into his ear. Nebuchadnezzar's face twists into a terrifying mask of pure rage. He orders the three men dragged before him.
Is it true, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, that you do not serve my gods or worship the image of gold? I will give you one last chance. When the music plays, drop to your knees. If you refuse, you will be thrown straight into the blazing furnace. Then what god will be able to rescue you from my hand?
Look closely at their faces. They are not mindless, fearless robots. They are flesh and blood, young men looking directly at horrific, fiery death. The easiest thing in the world would be to fake it. To bow on the outside but pray on the inside. But they know that bowing to the idol is a betrayal of the God who saved them.
If we are thrown into the blazing furnace, the God we serve is able to deliver us from it.
But even if he does not, we want you to know, Your Majesty,
That we will not serve your gods or worship the image of gold you have set up.
But even if he does not, it is the most terrifying, beautiful kind of courage in the world. Faith without guarantees. They do not know if they will survive, but they choose the fire over the idol. And the king is about to show them exactly how much that fire hurts. King Nebuchadnezzar completely loses his mind. The veins literally bulge in his neck. His face turns bright red with absolute fury. Humiliated in front of his entire kingdom, he screams for his executioners.
Heat the furnace! Heat it 7 times hotter than usual! Bind them!
The king's strongest soldiers drag the 3 men up the steep ramp toward the opening of the massive brick furnace. The heat is so intense, so unnaturally fierce, that the bricks of the furnace are literally glowing white hot. The heat is so explosive that it instantly kills the elite soldiers on the spot. Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego tumble forward, falling directly into the heart of the blinding, blazing inferno. If you believe that God is with you even in the hardest fires of life, comment "Faith over fear" down below. He cannot believe his own eyes. He leaps to his feet in terror, dropping his heavy golden goblet and pointing a shaking finger at the inferno.
Weren't there 3 men that we tied up and threw into the fire? Look! I see 4 men walking around in the fire, unbound and unharmed. And the 4th looks like a son of the gods.
They are not burning. They are not screaming. The thick ropes that bound their hands have melted away, but their clothes are completely untouched. And they are not alone. Walking with them, right in the center of the deadliest fire on earth, is a 4th figure, glowing with brilliant, blinding celestial light. God did not put out the fire. He stepped into it with them. Trembling uncontrollably, Nebuchadnezzar slowly approaches the dangerous opening of the furnace and begs them to come out. The 3 friends calmly step from the roaring fire. Every prince, governor, and astrologer completely swarms them. They frantically touch the boys' arms and inspect their hair. It is physically impossible. Not a single hair on their heads is singed. There isn't even the faint smell of smoke on their bodies. The king of Babylon stands totally defeated by grace. He issues a new decree protecting the God of Israel. But while Nebuchadnezzar respects their God, he still refuses to humble his own heart. He thinks he is completely untouchable. But the king is about to learn a terrifying lesson. God doesn't need an army to pull a dictator off his throne. Decades pass. Daniel is no longer a teenager. His hair is graying with age and wisdom. The empire has grown massive and wealthy, but Nebuchadnezzar's soul is still deeply infected with arrogance. Another terrifying dream invades the king's sleep. He sees a massive, glorious tree touching the sky, providing shelter for the whole earth. But suddenly, a holy messenger descends from heaven and screams,
"Cut down the tree, but leave the stump bound with iron in the grass. Let him live with the wild animals until 7 periods of time pass over him."
When Daniel hears this dream, his face goes completely pale. He is terrified. He stands before the most dangerous man on earth, holding a prophetic death sentence in his mind.
My lord, if only the dream applied to your enemies.
You, O king, are that tree. You have become great and strong.
But a decree from the Most High has come against you.
You will be driven away from people and will live with the wild animals.
You will eat grass like the ox and be drenched with the dew of heaven. 7 times will pass by for you until you acknowledge that the Most High is sovereign over all kingdoms on earth.
Daniel desperately pleads with the king to renounce his sins and show mercy to the poor, hoping God will forgive him. But pride makes men completely deaf. 12 months later, the warning is forgotten. King Nebuchadnezzar is walking on the roof of his breathtaking royal palace. He looks out over the massive, sprawling city, the hanging gardens, and the towering walls. He puffs his chest out, completely blinded by his own ego.
Is not this the great Babylon I have built as the royal residence? By my mighty power and for the glory of my majesty.
The boastful words are still in his mouth when a voice falls from heaven.
Your royal authority has been taken from you.
Instantly, something snaps deep inside the king's mind. His sanity shatters like glass. The most powerful man on the planet drops to all fours. He tears off his royal robes. He forgets how to speak, replacing his words with terrifying, animalistic grunts. For 7 long years, he eats raw grass like an ox. It is a terrifying, heartbreaking picture of what happens when a human tries to play God. But God's discipline is always meant for restoration. At the end of the 7 years, the wild, broken king finally raises his dirty face toward heaven. The moment his heart breaks in true humility, his sanity instantly returns. He praises the Most High, finally understanding that God is able to humble those who walk in pride. Nebuchadnezzar learns his lesson. But when he eventually dies, his grandson Belshazzar takes the throne. And Belshazzar is about to throw a party that will literally destroy the empire in a single night. Decades roll by. Daniel is now an old man with flowing silver hair, largely forgotten by the new generation of rulers. The golden empire of Babylon has grown incredibly lazy and arrogant. The new king, Belshazzar, is foolish and deeply disrespectful. Even worse, a massive enemy army of Medes and Persians has secretly surrounded the massive city walls outside. But Belshazzar doesn't care. Believing his walls are invincible, he decides to throw a massive, drunken feast for 1,000 of his nobles inside the palace. To show off his power, Belshazzar commits the ultimate blasphemy. he orders his servants to bring out the sacred gold and silver goblets. The exact same cups stolen from God's temple in Jerusalem when Daniel was just a 15-year-old boy. The nobles laugh, drinking from the holy vessels while loudly praising their lifeless statues of bronze and wood. But God will not be mocked. Out of thin air, a glowing, disembodied human hand appears, slowly scratching a terrifying message into the plaster. The king is so terrified his knees physically knock together. His legs give way and he collapses into his chair. None of his wise men can read the glowing, terrifying text. Desperate, the Queen Mother remembers the old Jewish exile. She calls for Daniel. Old Daniel is brought before the trembling, pathetic king. He refuses the king's desperate offers of wealth and purple robes. He stares fiercely at Belshazzar, rebuking him for refusing to learn from his grandfather's terrible madness.
This is the inscription that was written: Mene, Mene, Tekel, Parsin. Here is what these words mean.
Mene, God has numbered the days of your reign and brought it to an end. Tekel, you have been weighed on the scales and found wanting. Parsin, your kingdom is divided and given to the Medes and Persians.
It is not a riddle. It is a literal countdown. And it is the final death sentence for the Golden Empire. That very night, the impossible happens. The invading Persian army secretly redirects the massive river flowing under Babylon's walls. They conquer the invincible city without a massive battle. Belshazzar is slain in his own throne room. The great, terrifying empire of Babylon completely falls, and Darius the Mede takes the kingdom. Daniel has survived yet another brutal regime change. But his greatest, most terrifying test, a test of absolute faith against the jaws of starving beasts, is waiting for him in the new empire. The Golden Empire of Babylon is completely dead. But Daniel's reputation is very much alive. The new ruler, King Darius, quickly realizes this 80-year-old Jewish exile is the smartest man in the empire. Darius plans to promote him to the very top, giving him power over the entire realm. But absolute power breeds absolute jealousy.
He makes us look like fools. Look at him, a foreigner, a captive of a dead nation.
Then we find a way. Every man in this palace has a weakness. Everyone has a secret.
I pulled his records from the last 10 years. I interviewed his servants. Nothing. The man is a ghost of perfection. He has never taken a single bribe.
Then he is untouchable. We will all bow to a Jewish exile for the rest of our days.
We will never find any basis for charges against this man, Daniel, unless it has something to do with the law of his God.
Envy is a dangerous poison. When wicked men cannot defeat you with the truth, they will weaponize your faith against you. The jealous governors hold a secret, shadowy meeting in the depths of the palace. They need a law that appeals to the king's enormous ego, and they need the perfect execution method.
We arrest him! We throw him into a blazing furnace!
No. Have you learned nothing from history? These Jewish exiles are immune to fire. We need something with teeth, something that bleeds. We use the royal lions.
They wait for the king to be distracted at a massive, chaotic celebration. Blinded by pride and loud music, the king is completely vulnerable. The governors march into the banquet hall and put on the performance of a lifetime.
Oh, brilliant king! We marvel at your power. But we worry about spies in the newly conquered lands. We need a grand gesture to force them out of the shadows.
Spies? I love it. What do you propose? Establish a royal statute. For the next 30 days, whoever asks a petition of any god or man, except of you, O king, shall be cast immediately into the den of lions.
Darius thinks it is a brilliant security operation, but the governors conveniently left Daniel out of the meeting. Distracted by the flattery, Darius doesn't check the fine print. The trap snaps shut. The clock begins ticking. For the next 30 days, praying to the God of heaven is a capital offense. The news of the unchangeable law travels fast. They know Daniel's routine perfectly. They are just waiting for him to make the fatal mistake. The easiest thing in the world would be to compromise. Daniel could just pray silently in his head for 30 days. But Daniel knows that hiding your faith to appease a wicked law is the exact same thing as bowing to it. As he prepares to kneel, his young servant rushes in, terrified.
Master Daniel, please, look down at the alley.
The guards are waiting! Just pull the window shut! Just for today!
If I close the window today, I am telling my God that I fear the king of Persia more than I revere the king of heaven.
But the lions are starving! And why do you look out that window anyway?
You are facing Jerusalem. The temple was burned to the ground 70 years ago.
Hear the supplication of your servant and of your people Israel when they pray toward this place. Hear from heaven your dwelling place, and when you hear, forgive. King Solomon prayed those words hundreds of years ago. The Babylonians burned the building, my boy, but they cannot burn the promise.
Courage is a quiet, unbreakable routine. He knows the decree is signed. He knows the lions are waiting. But he speaks to the creator of the universe anyway. The trap snaps. The spies don't even bother kicking the door down. They just point up at the open window in total victory, then sprint for the palace.
We have him! Run to the king! King Darius, did you not publish a decree? Any man who prays to any god except you shall be thrown to the lions. The decree stands. It cannot be altered.
Then know this, that exile, Daniel, ignores your decree. He still prays to his God 3 times a day.
The king realizes he has been played. He just handed corrupt politicians the weapon to assassinate his best friend.
Get out! Call my scribes. Call the judges.
But his hands are legally tied. He cannot save his friend without burning his kingdom to the ground. The clock runs out. Darius lowers his head and gives the terrible order. The royal guards don't drag Daniel kicking and screaming. He walks quietly, his head held high. They arrive at the edge of the pit. The darkness is absolute. Echoing up from the black void is the bone-chilling, raspy breathing of starving lions. Suddenly, frantic footsteps echo down the tunnel. King Darius pushes violently through the guards, gasping for air.
Daniel, I am a fool. I was blinded by my arrogance.
Do not let your heart be troubled, O king. The Lord of heaven knows I am innocent.
The sun has vanished. The law demands the sentence be carried out immediately.
Daniel doesn't wait to be pushed. He nods respectfully to the king and steps off the ledge into the absolute blackness.
May your God, whom you serve continually, rescue you!
The king's hand trembles as he presses his ring into the hot red wax. It is the ultimate cruelty. The exact same ring that signed the death warrant now seals the grave. There is no escape. Up in the highly secure palace, the most powerful man on the planet is a prisoner of his own guilt. King Darius stands on his high balcony, shivering in the cold night air. He grips the stone railing, his eyes locked desperately on the eastern horizon, waiting for the first crack of sunlight. Will he find Daniel alive, or will he just find bones? The second the sun peaks over the horizon, King Darius snaps. He doesn't wait for his guards. He just runs. He reaches the cavern, gasping for air. The massive stone is still in place, the royal wax completely untouched.
Break the seal! Push the stone away!
But my king, the law stats anyone who breaks the seal will be...
I am the king! Break it!
The king drops to his knees in the dirt. He genuinely believes he is about to look down at a gruesome crime scene. His voice trembles.
Daniel! Has your God been able to rescue you?
For a terrifying moment, there is only the sound of the cold wind. And then, a calm voice echoes up from the dark.
O king, live forever. My God sent his angel, and he shut the mouths of the lions. They have not hurt me.
Darius erupts into joyous tears. Daniel is pulled into the warm morning sunlight without a single scratch. But the story isn't quite over. The absolute law of Persia still stands, but this time, the true criminals face the sentence. The men who tried to destroy Daniel are thrown into the exact same pit. And this time, the lions were very happy to finally get their breakfast. To fix his horrible mistake, King Darius drafts a new, permanent law, sending it to every corner of the earth.
I issue a decree that in every part of my kingdom, people must reverence the God of Daniel, for he is the living God.
Daniel outlasted the Babylonian Empire. He outlasted the envy of corrupt politicians. And he proved that when you refuse to bow to fear, even the lions will sit at your feet. Because true courage isn't the absence of fear. It is the quiet, unbreakable trust in a God who never leaves your side, even in the darkest pit.
Hi guys, these videos take many hours of hard work. If you could, please like the video and subscribe. Also, we want to see which countries our videos reach. If you could, please comment which country you're watching from. It'll truly help us. See you till the next video.